Now, first we are going to take a look at modifiers, right? Before taking a look at a modifier based question, first we need to understand what do we mean by modifiers. So, on SATs, a modifier is an introductory phrase that describes something without naming it, and it should be placed right next to the word it describes. Okay. For example, let's say if I write a sentence, while teaching her class, Miss Johnson handed out the quiz. So, what is the introductory phrase here that is describing something without naming it? The introductory phrase is while teaching her class, isn't it? So, who was teaching her class? Obviously, Mrs. Johnson was teaching her class, right? So, this sentence, this phrase, while teaching her class, should be placed right next to Mrs. Johnson, which it is correctly. Now, just to test you, let's say if I write another sentence. While teaching her class, the quiz was handed out by Miss Johnson. So, which one of these two sentences is correct? The first one or the second one? Obviously, the first one, right? Because your modifier is while teaching her class and it is describing Miss Johnson and not the quiz. Selecting the second sentence would imply that quiz was teaching her class, okay, which is absolutely wrong. Quiz cannot teach classes. Obviously, Mrs. Johnson was. So that's why first sentence is correct and second one is wrong. Okay, now this is what an actual SAT question looks like. Whenever it says which choice completes the text so that it conforms to conventions of standard English, that means it's a grammar question. Okay, and whenever we have a grammar question, we need to take a look at the answer choices and see what is changing in the answer choices. So if I'll ask you what is changing in the answer choices over here, if you see, like, these are basically the very same sentences, but the only thing that is changing is the word order. Okay, so please note, whenever the word order is changing in the answer choices, the concept being tested is modifiers. Okay, and what should be the next step? Our next step would be to identify the modifier. Okay, so where will be the modifier? The modifier on these questions will always be right before the blank separated by a comma, right? So this entire phrase before the blank, that from after to legislation, that's your modifier. Okay, after pleading for years to no effect for the passage of key anti-discrimination legislation. Okay, so what is it describing? Who was or what was pleading for years to no effect for the passage of key anti-discrimination legislation? Was the pressure pleading anyone for the passage of key anti-discrimination legislation? Obviously not, so I can safely remove this option. What about the second one? A sit-in protest staged by the activists. Was a sit-in protest pleading for years to no effect for the passage of key anti-discrimination legislation? Obviously not. Do you think were the lawmakers pleading anyone for the passage of key anti-discrimination legislation? I mean, lawmakers are the ones who make laws, right? Obviously, they do not need to plead anyone for the passage of a legislation. So obviously, the correct answer is D. The activists. The activists were pleading for years for the passage of a key anti-discrimination legislation. So all you need to do in these questions is you need to identify the modifier, identify the thing that it is describing, and place it right next to it. Okay. Now, did you notice something? Did we read the rest of the passage? Like, did I read from the very beginning on 5th April 1977? I didn't. Did I read the rest of the answer choices, like the activists increase pressure on lawmakers by staging a sit in protest? No, I absolutely did not. You do not need to read the entire passage, and you absolutely did not need to read the entire answer choice. You just need the first word of the answer choices, right? Or the first few words. Remember that this is actually a very important tip in time saving. Now, this is another question, right? So it says conventions of standard English, that means it's a grammar question. Then word order is changing in the answer choices, that means it's for sure a modifier question. Okay, so what do we need to do first? We need to identify the modifier. So I'll let you, to come up with an answer of your own within next 2 seconds. What is the modifier in this question? The modifier is the one that is right before the blank, the phrase right before the blank, right? So, since uncovering fragments of 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness in northern Siberia. So, who was or what was uncovering fragments of 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness in northern Siberia? Was a researcher named Robert Lozzi uncovering fragments of 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness? Maybe he was, so I'll keep option A as maybe. What about the second one? Again, it says the researcher Robert Lozzi, so I can keep this as maybe too, right? But what about the third one? Domestication. Obviously, domestication was not exactly uncovering fragments of 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness in North Siberia. Then what about fourth one? The argument. Obviously, the argument was not uncovering fragments of 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness in northern Siberia. So, what should be our answer? First one or the second one? The correct answer over here is first one. Like, can you also tell me, like, why is first one the correct answer? Why not the second one? It is because of this apostrophe in second one, right? So, who was uncovering fragments of 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness in northern Siberia? Researcher Robert Lozzi, or researcher Robert Lozzi's argument was uncovering fragments of 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness? Obviously, the researcher was. The researcher was uncovering that, not researcher's argument. Okay. So here's another tip. In these questions, be aware of apostrophes, right? Apostrophes can literally change the word that is being modified. Okay. That's pretty much it for the modifiers today. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more insights into SCT concepts and strategies. If you would like personalized guidance, check out the link in the description to visit my Preply profile, where you can book one-on-one lessons with me. I'll help you improve your SCT scores with customized instruction, extensive practice questions, full-length tests, and comprehensive class materials. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next class. Thank you.